My son-in-law insulted me. He did it calmly, in perfect Italian, assuming I wouldn't understand a single word. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't have known, is that I've spent more of my life listening than talking. My name is Edward Lane. For 40 years, I taught music history and manuscript analysis. I know the personalities of dead musicians better than I know the hobbies of my neighbors. But a few years ago, when my daughter Maya married a young man named Lorenzo, a talented, grieving, complicated young man, I chose something I'm not known for. Silence. I stepped back. I didn't lecture. I didn't impress. I didn't reveal the miles of my past. Because right before the wedding, Lorenzo lost his younger sister, Sophia. And when someone loses the one person who shared their language, musical or otherwise, you don't overwhelm them with more. So I let him believe I was simple. A quiet man with a tuning fork and soft opinions. And for 3 years, that was enough. Until the night he insulted me. It happened at his gallery opening, one of those flawless Chelsea studios where the walls are so white you feel your breath might stain them. The room buzzed with donors and critics showing off their interpretations of sculptures they didn't actually understand. I walked in carrying a single sheet of old piano music in an archival sleeve. A fragile little piece I'd been saving for the right moment. A moment I thought might help him. Lorenzo saw me approaching and smiled, but it wasn't a smile for me. It was the smile he gives people when he's working the room. "Ed," he said, taking the sleeve as casually as if it were a grocery receipt, "what's this?" He didn't wait for an answer. He just held it up to the light, squinting at it with the impatience of someone assessing value, not meaning. And then, for the benefit of the people around him, he said, "E tenero quando I parenti portano cose, provinciali." It's sweet when relatives bring such provincial things. Polite laughter rose around him. A small, glittering humiliation, so subtle it could have almost passed as affection. But I didn't react. Not because I didn't understand him. I understood him perfectly. I didn't react because I saw the real reason behind his dismissal. Fear. The page he held wasn't provincial. It wasn't decorative. And it wasn't worthless. It was a handwritten piano sketch from 1896. Title, Sogno a margine, Dream at the Edges. Delicate. Private. Clearly written by a teacher for someone they cared for. And in the bottom right corner, in faded walnut ink. Per S. For S. Not proof of anything. But enough to raise a question. Enough to echo a name I had waited years for him to be strong enough to hear again. Sophia. But he didn't see that. He didn't even see the paper. He was performing. Trying to look knowledgeable. Trying to be untouchable. This kind of thing is usually fake, he added for the crowd. People get sentimental and think they've discovered treasure. More laughter. And then, from behind one of the sculptures, a soft voice. "May I see it?" A man stepped forward, mid-50s, steady eyes, the posture of a lifetime pianist. He held out his hand. I passed him the sleeve before Lorenzo could object. This man, who would introduce himself later as Marco, held the page with a reverence that told me he recognized what he was touching. He studied the curve of the handwriting. The clean hesitations. The way the notes leaned into each other like someone composing for a specific pair of hands. Then he looked up. "This," he said quietly, "is not a reproduction." The room went still. Lorenzo blinked, as if someone had told him the sculpture behind him had just come alive. Marco continued, "Someone wrote this with care. For a student they loved. This is intimate." Then he brushed one finger over the dedication. Per S. This wasn't meant for the world. This was meant for someone. And that was the moment everything changed. Because I watched Lorenzo's expression crack. Just a flicker, but unmistakable. A crack in the armor he had worn every day since his sister died. He wasn't embarrassed. He wasn't annoyed. He was afraid. Afraid because something in that ink recognized him. And he recognized it back. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen from him. A mixture of confusion, dread, and a hope he didn't want to admit. "What is this?" he whispered. And I told him the truth he'd been avoiding for years. "It's a door," I said. "And you've been terrified to open it." Marco handed the page back with a gentle nod. "It's not valuable because it's old," he told him. "It's valuable because it remembers someone." Lorenzo swallowed hard. The gallery noise melted away. The lights, the guests, the art, none of it mattered anymore. Just him, the page, and the name he hadn't said since the funeral. He stared at the music for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely louder than a breath, he asked, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And I answered him the way a father answers a son, even if the son doesn't know it yet. "That depends. Are you finally ready to talk about her?" Lorenzo didn't speak for a full 10 seconds after I asked if he was ready to talk about her. Not because he was offended, because the question hit him like a falling beam. And here's something people misunderstand about grief. It doesn't explode. It leaks. It finds the crack in your voice and climbs through before you realize it's escaped. He just stared at the sheet music like it was a message written in a language he used to know. Maya came to his side, worried. "What's going on?" she whispered. He handed her the page, almost reluctantly, like it was hot. "For S," she read aloud. Her eyes lifted to mine. Not accusing, just searching. I could practically hear her thinking, "Dad, what did you bring into this room?" But this wasn't the time to explain everything. Not yet. Lorenzo exhaled sharply, the kind of breath someone releases when they're about to be honest against their own will. "I need a minute," he muttered, already walking away. He wasn't making a scene. He was trying not to make one. We followed him down a narrow hallway behind the gallery, the door closing softly behind us, a sound that somehow felt like privacy. He stopped halfway down the corridor and leaned against the wall like the floor had tilted. Maya reached for his hand. "Talk to us," she said. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't coaxing. Just inviting. He shook his head. At first, I thought he was refusing. But then he said, quietly, "I haven't listened to music since she died." That line cut through the air like glass dropping. Maya's eyes softened. She'd suspected, but hearing it said plainly, it hit differently. He kept going, faster now, words tripping over themselves. "She used to send me ideas. Little recordings. Drafts. Sometimes nonsense. Sometimes brilliant stuff. After everything, I couldn't open any of it. I turned off notifications, deleted messages, sold the piano in my apartment. I told myself I'd pick things up later." He laughed once, a small, humorless sound. But later never came. Silence. Not the suffocating kind. The kind that waits. Maya squeezed his arm. "Lorenzo." He didn't look at her. He looked at me. "Why did you bring this now?" he asked. And here's where I had to be careful. He didn't need my history lesson. He didn't need 40 years of research in a monologue. He needed one truth. "Because tonight," I said, "you looked at that page like you recognized something in it. And that was the first time I've seen you open the door even a little." He blinked rapidly, like he was overwhelmed but trying not to look overwhelmed. He looked down at the page again. His fingertips touched the dedication, for S, as gently as if touching the wrong amount of pressure might erase her. Maya lifted her chin. "Dad, tell him. Tell him who you really are." I sighed. Not heavily, just in acceptance. Lorenzo, I said, I didn't spend my life tuning pianos. I spent it studying how music remembers people. That made him look at me sharply. I continued, I've spent decades analyzing manuscripts. Authenticating handwriting. Finding the people inside the notes. I brought this page tonight because it spoke the same language you used to. He swallowed. So you think this had something to do with her? I held his eyes. I think it has something to do with you. His jaw clenched. Why would someone write something for me? I don't know, I said truthfully. But I know this, someone wrote it for someone important. And someone whose name started with S. And it's unfinished. That word hit him harder than anything else I'd said. He frowned. What do you mean, unfinished? I hesitated, and that hesitation made him straighten. The truth was, and I hadn't told them this yet. There were faint pressure marks at the bottom of the page. Not ink. Not notes. Just the impression of a hand that had hesitated before writing something else. Like the composer intended to add a second dedication, but didn't. But this was not the moment to drop that on him. So I softened the answer. There's more emotion in the phrasing than what's written on the page. It feels like someone started saying something and couldn't finish. Lorenzo ran a hand through his hair, pacing a step back. This is too much, he whispered. It's a random piece of music, it shouldn't be doing this to me. It's not random, I said gently. You know it. He didn't argue. He didn't need to. He looked at Maya suddenly, eyes red. I don't know how to feel all this again. That's why we're here, she whispered, pressing her forehead against his. He let himself lean into her for a moment. Just a moment. Long enough to be human. Then he stood straighter, wiping his eyes quickly, embarrassed at his own emotion. I want to go home, he said. I can't stay in there. Okay, Maya said. Let's go. We stepped back into the gallery. The light felt too bright. The voices too loud. The art too irrelevant. On the way to the exit, Lorenzo held the page carefully, almost protectively. When we reached the door, he paused. Ed, he said, voice steadier now. If I decide to look at this, I can't do it alone. You won't, I said. He nodded. And then he asked something I didn't expect, not yet. Will you teach me? Not to play. Not yet. Just, teach me to understand it. To hear what it's trying to say. I smiled gently. Yeah. I'll teach you. We stepped into the winter air. Cold, clean, sobering. It felt like the world exhaled with us. He didn't speak on the ride home. But he didn't let go of the music, either. And as the streetlights swept across his face, I noticed something. He kept glancing at one tiny mark on the bottom corner of the page. A mark he hadn't mentioned. A mark he kept returning to like it meant something. I decided not to ask about it yet. Because the truth is, that tiny mark wasn't supposed to be there. And I wasn't sure who noticed it first, him, or me. The second he set the page down on the dining table, I saw something wrong. Not dramatic. Not supernatural. Just, wrong. A tension in the lower margin, the way paper flexes where a pen once hesitated. I didn't say it out loud. I wanted him to see it first. Lorenzo stood over the score, coat still on, breathing with that shallow rhythm people use when they're trying to make thinking feel like action. Maya flicked on the pendant light. The page glowed flat and honest. Sit, I told him. He sat, eyes on the music. Maya stood behind his chair and stayed quiet. Good. Quiet, right now, meant space to notice. I nudged the sleeve closer. Look here, I said, tapping the lower right, nowhere near the title, nowhere near the dedication. Not the ink. The paper. He squinted. What am I looking for? A ripple, I said. An indentation with no ink. He leaned in. I watched the moment he found it, the tiny change in focus, the small frown that says a brain has decided something is real. You see it? I asked. He nodded once. Yes. Then, what is it? Pressure mark, I said. The pen touched down. Nothing written. Like a false start? Like a hesitation, I said. It matters that it's here. How much does it matter? Enough that I'm glad you brought it home in a sleeve. He sat back, processing. That took 5 seconds. Then he leaned forward again, curiosity already outrunning fear. Good sign. Where did you learn to see that? He asked. Archives, I said. You start recognizing the way people think with their hands. He exhaled, almost a laugh. Sophia used to do this, he said without looking up. When she wrote. The pen hovered. Little dents. There it was, a new piece of information. Not sad. Useful. Maya moved to the other side of the table to see what he was seeing. So what does the hesitation mean? She asked. Could be anything, I said. A second dedication the composer didn't write. A correction. A change of heart. Or someone else wrote on it later, Lorenzo said quickly. Also possible, I said. Different nibs leave different pressure. Different centuries too. His eyes flicked up. Different centuries? The page is from 1896, I said. Anything written with a ballpoint, for example, would be 20th century. Graphite pressure looks different from nib. We can check under raking light. Raking light? Lamp at a low angle, I said. Shadows show what ink hides. He swallowed. Do it. I shook my head. Not tonight. You're tired. And we need to be careful. No rubbing. No improvising. We do it right. He didn't like that. But he understood it. Then what now? He asked. For the next 10 minutes, I said, you tell me what else you notice, without trying to make it mean anything. He nodded, and for once he followed instructions. The title, he said. Dream at the Edges. It feels like someone trying not to wake up. Good, I said. The phrasing, the slurs, they aren't decorative, he went on. They feel deliberate. Good. He hesitated. The dedication. Per S. It still feels like a bell ringing. That's your history talking, I said. You're allowed to hear it. Just don't make it proof. He breathed out, steadying. Okay. We sat with the page. The room sounded like rooms sound, refrigerator hum, a car passing, the building settling. No speeches. No big declarations. Information over confession. After a minute, my phone buzzed. A text from Marco, home safe. Tell him to sleep. Tomorrow, if you want, I can bring a lamp with a movable arm. I typed back, thank you. We'll proceed carefully. Marco? Maya asked. He offered a lamp, I said. A good one. Oblique light. That helps. Lorenzo said. It's how you see the story under the story, I said. He looked at the page again, then at me. Ed, at the gallery you said this wasn't about proof. But I need to ask, is this about her? It's about you, I said. And about a teacher who wrote with affection. He absorbed that. No slump. No collapse. Just a small, almost defiant nod. He was choosing forward motion over memory spirals. Another good sign. Let's check the watermark, I said. We won't touch the ink. Just hold it to the lamp. We angled the pendant light and lifted the edge of the sleeve carefully. The faint oval appeared, crown, partial letters, the year watermark I already knew would be there. He saw it. Seeing for himself mattered more than hearing it from me. So it's real paper, he said. It's real paper, I said. From the right era. He breathed once, deeper. Okay. He reached for the lower corner again, stopped short of touching, pulled his hand back. It's ridiculous how much I don't want to smudge this. It isn't ridiculous, I said. It's respect. He met my eyes, and there was a quick flash, gratitude under tension. Then he cleared his throat. Turn it over, he said. Let's see the back. Maya looked at me. I nodded. Slowly. We rotated the sleeve. Same table. Same light. The paper's backside showed what old paper shows, fibers, faint bleed-through, a few age freckles. And there, near the bottom edge, the same small area of disturbed fibers, the pressure marks reverse. Lorenzo frowned. There's more than a dent, he said. He was right. At a certain angle, the surface change wasn't just indentation. It was abrasion. Slight. But there. Someone touched this spot more than once, I said. Pen down, pen up. Or pen down, then erase if it was graphite. Maya leaned closer. If someone erased something, could we recover it? Sometimes, I said. Graphite leaves traces. But we're not doing any tricks tonight. Lorenzo looked like he might argue. He didn't. He studied the area again. Then his gaze drifted a few millimeters left, and his expression changed, surprise first, then something like caution. You see that? He asked. Where? There, he said, pointing just above the hem of the sleeve, inside the margin. Not printed. Not part of the staff lines. I edged the page up a hair within the sleeve to get better light. We all saw it at once, faint, not ink dark, softer, like graphite smudged and thinned by time. A single word. English, not Italian. Short. Wait, Maya breathed. We didn't speak for a few seconds. Not dramatic silence. Practical silence. Let the brain sort what the eyes saw. Graphite, I said finally. Looks like pencil. Not 19th century ink. Later hand. Lorenzo swallowed. But, whose hand? I don't know, I said. It could be anyone who handled it after the fact, a teacher, a student, a librarian, a dealer. Or someone in that Connecticut estate. But it wasn't written in 1896. That's certain. He stared at the word like it might move. Why wait? Instruction, I said. Reminder. Or a message to self, pause before playing, before turning, before, something. Or a note for the person it was written for, Maya said softly. Maybe, I said. But until we know the graphite's age, it's speculation. He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave the word. It's in English, he said. Not Italian. Not French. That narrows possibilities, I said. But doesn't answer them. He exhaled, sat back, then leaned forward again, energy rising instead of folding. Okay. Next steps. We document it. Photos under raking light. No filters. We note position from the edge to millimeter. We compare the graphite line weight to standard pencils. He stopped, caught himself, almost smiled at the speed of his own urgency. Sorry, he said. I don't know why I suddenly want to catalog everything. Because action is easier than avoidance, I said. And because you're waking up. He looked at me, then at Maya. I want to do this right. No shortcuts. If this is nothing, I can live with nothing. If it's something, I don't want to damage the trail. Then we go slow, I said. Tomorrow, we use proper light. We check the sleeve for residue. We photograph both sides. We don't clean. We don't erase. We don't breathe heavy over it. He nodded again, sharper now. Deal. The word on the page, wait, sat there, small and stubborn. English. Later hand. Out of time. Not proof of anything. But not nothing. Ed, he said, still staring, be honest. Do you think that word was meant for whoever first owned this, or for whoever found it later? I think, I said, it was meant for the exact person who was holding it when they needed to see it. He absorbed that. Then, which, tonight, is me. Yes, I said. We slid the page back to the center of the table, set the sleeve flat, and stepped away. Maya killed the pendant light and turned on a lamp across the room. Softer. Safer. The three of us stood there a moment longer, watching the page like it might breathe. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marco, don't tilt the page too close to heat. Paper curls when warm. I wrote back, noted. Found graphite annotation. Single word. We'll examine tomorrow. He replied immediately, word. I typed, wait. There was a pause. Then do exactly that. I looked at Lorenzo. He'd seen the message over my shoulder. He managed a thin, real smile for the first time that night. Tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow, I agreed. We left the page where it was and turned out the light. And for the first time in years, he didn't run from what the music asked of him. He listened. I didn't sleep. Neither did Lorenzo. The word on the back of the page, wait, wouldn't let either of us. By 9 a.m., I was back at their apartment with coffee and my old inspection kit. Not textbooks, not nostalgia, tools. The second I walked in, I saw it, the page was already on the table, angled toward the morning light. Lorenzo sat in front of it like someone guarding evidence. Good, he said. Let's start. No small talk. No checking in. The story didn't need it. I set the angle lamp down, lowered the arm, and let the light skim across the sleeve. The graphite word reappeared, sharper today, like it had been waiting for the light. The page has a history, I said. Let's see what kind. Lorenzo leaned in, not emotional this time, analytical. Tell me what we're looking for. Clues. Anything that doesn't belong to 1896. I handed him the loop. He steadied himself, focused, and within seconds said. The pressure. The W dips harder on the left. That was fast. Good fast. What does that mean? Maya asked. It means whoever wrote this didn't jot it down, I said. They committed to it. Lorenzo kept studying. The graphite, it's not smeared. Someone pressed deliberately. Exactly. This was what I wanted, forward motion. Evidence, not emotion. I pulled a soft bristle brush from the kit and swept the inside of the sleeve seam. What are you doing? Maya asked. Checking for graphite dust. If we find particles, we can test pencil hardness. Pencil hardness? Lorenzo repeated. Graphite composition changed over the 20th century. If the mark is from 1940, it tells one story. If it's from 1998, it tells another. He nodded quickly. Did you find anything? Not yet, I said. But there's more to examine. He placed the page under the lamp again. This time, something else caught his attention. There, he said. Look at the bottom. Not at the word, beneath it. I leaned closer. Different angle. Different truth. Not just an indentation. A surface disturbance. Like the page had once been pressed against another sheet with texture. You're seeing fiber transfer, I said. Modern paper. Probably stored together at some point. In a folder? Maya asked. Possibly. But not in 1896. Lorenzo exhaled through his nose, a controlled release. So someone handled this, he said. Someone after the composer. Almost certainly, I said. He sat back, not overwhelmed this time, but sharpening. Then he said something I didn't expect. There's another pattern. My attention snapped to him. Where? He pointed to the right of the graphite word. Here. Tiny bumps? No, breaks. The nib dragged there once. I checked with the loop. He was right. There were micro-tears in the paper grain, evidence of a pen that stopped and was lifted. Not 19th century pressure. Different angle. Different force. Someone else tried to write something, I murmured. But didn't, he said. Or couldn't, Maya added. We sat with that, long enough for meaning, not long enough for stagnation. Then Lorenzo said, Ed, what aren't you telling me? His voice wasn't desperate. It was precise. The kind of voice you use when you know answers exist, and someone in the room has one. I didn't dodge it. Look at the formation of the letters, I said. Not the word. The handwriting rhythm. He lifted the loop again. The moment he saw it, his breath caught. What is it? Maya asked. He lowered the loop, stunned but steady. The writer lifts their hand between the and the I. Yes. That's unusual, Maya said. It is, I agreed. Lorenzo swallowed. Only one person I've ever known wrote like that. I waited. Sophia, he said. She had a scar on her middle finger. Made her lift slightly between letters. Teachers hated it. It doesn't mean it's her, I said quickly. Handwriting coincidence is common. Lifted pen strokes aren't unique identifiers. He nodded. I know. I'm not saying it's her. But the crackle in the air was undeniable. What I am saying, he continued, is someone who handled this page wrote like her. Maya touched his arm. That matters. He didn't answer, because he wasn't focused on the writing anymore. He was looking at the page like it had a pulse. So what now? He asked. We treat it like a trail, I said. Paper doesn't lie. It records everything that touches it. And where does this trail start? With the last person who owned it, I said. The retired teacher. The estate sale. And before that, he pressed. We follow the chain. Dealers, collectors, conservatories, archives. Someone touched this. Someone added that word. Someone pressed that pen into the corner. He nodded, once, sharply. Okay, he said. Then I want to see everything. Every receipt. Every ownership record. That will take time, I said. I don't care. Good. Drive is better than fear. I pulled a folder from my bag. I took photos of the estate catalog when I bought the page. Handwritten notes, too. There's a name you need to see. He tensed. Whose name? The previous owner's mentor, I said. Older musician. Traveled extensively. Taught privately. Spent time in Naples. Lorenzo froze. Naples, he echoed. Yes. That's where she studied for a summer, he whispered. Right before. He stopped himself. Maya leaned closer. What's the name, Dad? I turned the folder toward them. A signature. Faded photocopy. Elegant handwriting. A. Benedetti. Lorenzo's face drained of color. What? I asked softly. I know that name, he whispered. How? Maya said. He swallowed hard. Sophia had a notebook, he said. A composition notebook she kept when she was 16. She mentioned one teacher who changed everything. Just one. She wrote his name in the margin once. He touched the faded photocopy with one shaking finger, still through the plastic cover. It was him, Lorenzo said. The man who taught her to compose was named Benedetti. Now it was my turn to go still. Not mystical. Not impossible. Just, improbable enough to matter. Are you sure? I asked. Yes. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. So the person who might have touched this page, might be the same person who taught your sister? He nodded slowly. The room shifted, not louder, not darker, just charged. The page in its sleeve wasn't sentimental anymore. It was evidence. A connection across decades neither of us had expected. Lorenzo looked at me. What does that mean? He asked. I answered honestly. It means the trail just got a lot shorter. Benedetti, Lorenzo said, and I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 20 years. It was the one name I'd hoped wouldn't surface, because if it did, this stopped being personal grief and became a paper trail with teeth. We traced the page through him, I said. Now. No warm-up, no pacing around the table. I pulled the thin stack of estate documents, flipped to provenance, and there it was, Benedetti Collection, Miscellaneous. Not a catalogue. A junk drawer. Archivists hate miscellaneous. It means, there's a story here and no one bothered to write it down. I called the only dealer who ever kept decent notes on Benedetti's things. He answered on the fourth ring, voice rough with sleep. It's Ed. I need your Benedetti records. Still chasing ghosts, he said, waking up as he recognized my name. Not ghosts. A page. He went quiet when I said, student folder. Quieter when I said, annotation. Then, I'll send you the inventory scans. And Ed, some items were disputed. Family fights. Pieces pulled at the last minute. Noted. The email arrived while we were still on the line. I opened the PDF. 15 items. Letters, drafts, one entry that mattered more than everything else. Un foglio antico, appunto, old sheet, annotation. Could be our page, I said. Lorenzo didn't breathe for a beat. Or it is. Careful, I said. Clue, not conclusion. The dealer cleared his throat. One more detail. My ledger says that old sheet, annotation was retained by family, not sold. I looked at Lorenzo. Say that again. Retained, the dealer repeated. Didn't leave with the estate. Which means if your page came from a sale, someone released it later. Or something's missing. Contradiction. Finally. Mysteries earn their keep with contradictions. Who retained it? I asked. Benedetti's nephew. The apartment went to him. I ended the call. We're going to Beacon, I said. Today, Lorenzo said. Today, Maya echoed, already grabbing her keys. No more sitting at the table staring at a problem. We moved. The drive was quiet in the way work is quiet. The page rode in the back seat in its sleeve, flat inside a portfolio, like evidence traveling under escort. Halfway up the Taconic, Lorenzo said, if Benedetti kept stories, he kept hers too. It wasn't a question and it wasn't rational. It was a thesis. And for once, it was the right kind of irrational. Beacon was bright and ordinary. The nephew's building was not precious, a 2-story walk-up with a door that stuck. He answered it himself, a man in his 60s with careful eyes and a careful life. "You're Ed," he said. Not unfriendly. "Just measuring." "I bought something from your uncle's things years ago," I said. "I think it was meant to stay with you." He looked at the portfolio. "Come in. No tea. No small talk." He led us to a back room lined with boxes labeled in pencil. "Better than miscellaneous, not by much." "We're looking for the student folder," I said. "Alunny." He nodded once, pulled a banker's box from a shelf, and set it down. Inside, thin manila, brittle plastic sleeves, a stack of old correspondence. He opened a folder marked Alunny. 15 items. Letters. Drafts. A photocopy of Benedetti's index. And a fourth folder, thinner, labeled in neat block print, old sheet, note. Lorenzo tensed. The nephew slid it open. It was empty. "Where is it?" Lorenzo asked, too quickly. "That's the problem," the nephew said. "It isn't here." He held up the photocopy of the index. The line we'd seen in the dealer's PDF, old sheet, annotation, was there, but beside it was a note in a different hand, held for privacy. "Whose hand?" I asked. "My aunt's," he said. "She helped me sort after my uncle died. She was the one who insisted we keep certain things out of the sale. Student materials. Dedications. Things that felt too personal." "Why call this one old sheet?" Maya asked. "That's how my uncle labeled it." He tapped the photocopy of Benedetti's handwriting. He wrote in Italian unless he was practicing English. "Foglio antico, appunto." "And the word written on the back?" I asked. The nephew blinked. "You've seen it?" "You tell me first," I said. He exhaled. "Yes." There was a pencil word on the reverse. "English." Lorenzo didn't breathe. "What word?" Maya asked. "Wait." The room tightened. Not for drama. For geometry, the evidence was now a shape. "How do you remember that?" I asked. "Because my uncle hated English notes on Italian paper. He complained about it whenever students wrote on his examples." The nephew paused. "But he kept this one anyway." "Why?" Lorenzo asked. The nephew looked at him for a long second. "Because it meant something to one of them." "Which student?" Lorenzo said. "I don't know. The folder is thin. Naples, late 90s. Mostly local kids. One American girl." The words landed like a hand on a shoulder. "What was her name?" Lorenzo asked, too carefully. The nephew frowned. "I don't remember." "A beat." "But," he said, pulling a small spiral notebook from the bottom of the box, "she insisted on labeling her exercises in English. My uncle complained about that too. He kept a note." He flipped quickly, found a page, and held it out. A list of first names with shorthand notes. Next to one, underlined twice, S, American, writes in English. Not Sophia. Not anything. Just S. Lorenzo didn't move, didn't speak. The letter stared at him from the paper like a dare. "We need more than that," I said. "I agree," the nephew replied. There was a mail log. Packages my aunt sent after the sale, things she returned to former students. People wrote back. Some didn't. He crossed to a second box, pulled a folder, and spread out carbon copies of shipping receipts on the desk. Names, partial addresses, dates. A note in the aunt's tidy block letters, old sheet plus note mailed, 2001, New York address, returned. Returned? I said. Never delivered, the nephew said. Came back here. Then my aunt forwarded it again months later, with no tracking this time. To the same address? Maya asked. He scanned. No. A different one. Brooklyn. Whose? Lorenzo said. The nephew hesitated. The log only shows initials. S.R. Lorenzo closed his eyes, just once. That's not her, he said. Her initials aren't R. Then it's someone else, I said. Which is good. It means the trail doesn't just intersect your family, it crosses a wider field. The nephew kept scanning. There's one more note, years later. He pointed. 2011, inquiry call, page with wait still in family. A phone number with a city code I recognized. Who called? I asked. Conservatory librarian, he said. She was checking a rumor. Said a student claimed to have seen a photocopy of an old page with an English word on the back. She wanted to verify provenance. I told her I didn't know where it was. And now? Lorenzo asked. Now I still don't, the nephew said. He looked at the portfolio. But if that's your page, I know what left my house. And I know it shouldn't have left at all. It left, I said. Which means somebody wanted it seen. On the way back, the page lay in the portfolio between us like it had started listening. We didn't talk. Not because there was nothing to say, because too much had shifted at once. Lorenzo kept his eyes on the road, jaw tight, like he was trying to remember something he'd never actually seen. An American girl, he murmured. S. Not a question, an emerging shape. Maya turned toward him. You think she wrote it? He didn't blink. If she didn't, then someone who knew her did. The air in the car sharpened, focused, like the story was narrowing itself. My phone buzzed. The librarian. Calling back. I looked at Lorenzo. He didn't look at me, he looked at the road like it had just handed him the next move. Answer it, he said quietly. There was something new in his voice. A certainty. A direction. As if the trail we were following was about to become something else entirely. I answered. And everything shifted again. Stay with us, and see what happens next in part.